This comment made me rewatch this movie, and honestly, I'm so glad I did because it is so much better than I remember. Let's do it. The ward opens up. We can tell that we're in a psych ward. It's the middle of the night, and we see this young female patient be killed by an unseen force. We later learn that this girl's name is Tammy. So the year is 1966, and now we cut and we meet our main character, Kristen. So we see Kristen running through the woods. We see that there's police chasing her. She obviously looks distressed, and she ends up coming upon this white farmhouse that she proceeds to burn down, and she sits there and watches it burn, and then the police come and take her away. And they end up taking her to Northbend Psychiatric Hospital, which we saw from the opening was the place where Tammy died. So she meets several other girls, including Iris. She's super artsy and she's always drawing portraits of the other girls. She meets Zoe, who's really childlike. She meets Emily, who's kind of like the crazy one. And she meets Sarah, who's like the flirty, seductive one. She also meets Dr. Stringer, who's the psychiatrist that's treating everyone. So very quickly, we learn that Kristen actually can't recall anything. She doesn't know anything about her past. She doesn't know why she burned down that house. And almost immediately, she starts seeing this deformed, demonic-looking creature. I didn't want it to be a jump scare, so. And she keeps seeing this creature around until one day it physically attacks her in the shower. When Kristen tries to tell the nurses and the staff about this creature and how it attacked her, they just give her electroshock therapy, because that's what we did in the 60s. Now, the other girls don't really seem to be seeing this creature, right? And one day, Iris is in a session with Dr. Stringer. And it turns out, like Kristen, Iris is having trouble remembering things as well. So Dr. Stringer tries to use hypnotherapy to bring these memories out of her. During this, he mentions a White House. After that session, however, Iris is attacked by the creature that Kristen has been seeing. And the creature proceeds to strap her down to one of the surgical tables and lobotomize her and kill her. So the next day, Iris is obviously missing, and Kristen is the only one that really seems to care. She ends up finding Iris's sketchbook, and in it, she finds a sketch of the creature. And next to it, she sees the name Alice Hudson written. And she finds out that Alice Hudson was a former patient at the hospital, but everybody seems to be really secretive about this girl. Kristen tries to devise a plan with Emily to escape with Iris, but that night as they go to escape, Kristen is attacked by the creature and knocked unconscious, so obviously it doesn't work. Meanwhile, Sarah becomes the creature's next victim, and she straps her down to the table and gives her electroshock therapy until she dies. So now Kristen confronts Zoe and Emily about who the fuck Alice was and why she wants this revenge against them, because everybody's dying. The girls admit that they all worked together to kill Alice, and they did so because she was constantly hurting them, and now Alice is back for revenge. Or at least her spirit is. So this confession and acknowledgement sends Emily into a spiral, and she threatens to off herself, but she's not even able to do so because the creature, who we now know is Alice, shows up behind her and slits her throat with a scalpel, and Emily dies. So now it's just Kristen and Zoe left, and Kristen decides that they're gonna escape that night, and they do so by Kristen pretending to hold Zoe hostage with a scalpel to her throat. But of course, that once again does not work out. The staff catches her and they drug her and they put her in a straitjacket. But she manages to somehow Houdini her way out of the straitjacket, and she gets Zoe, and the two of them try to get out, but Alice shows up and kills Zoe. So now it's just Kristen and Alice, and a chase scene ensues between the two of them, but ultimately Kristen is able to get away. But she then ends up in Dr. Stringer's office. And in the office, she finds his file on Alice. And this is where the plot twist comes in, because Alice's file includes the name of Kristen and all the other girls. So Dr. Stringer catches Kristen in his office and she confronts him. And he tells her, "Your name is not Kristen, your name is Alice Hudson. You were kidnapped at the age of 11 and chained in the basement of this farmhouse for 2 months." Fun fact, they show a flashback and child Alice is played by Sydney Sweeney. So she was held captive in this basement for 2 months where she was continually abused. And turns out that's the farmhouse that Kristen, which now we know is Alice, burnt down in the beginning, and that's why she burnt it down. So in order to cope with the trauma that she went through, Alice developed split personalities, or dissociative identity disorder. So each of the girls represents a different personality, and that's why they're also drastically different. But because so many personalities came to be, Alice herself eventually got lost. That's why in this world she was killed off, and the other personalities took over. And over time, the ghost version of Alice manifested and started to kill people as a way of killing off these various personalities. Dr. Stringer says he was making a lot of progress with Alice, and then Kristen showed up. And this personality was developed to protect the other personalities from being killed off in a way to protect Alice from the trauma. So that way, if she kept all the other personalities around, she wouldn't have to face this trauma. So after he reveals all this, we see Ghost Alice come in and attack Kristen, and both of them throw themselves out the window. But we see what really happens was just that Alice threw herself out the window. Alice Alice ends up surviving and waking up in the hospital where her parents come to visit her, and Dr. Stringer says she'll be healthy and cured and ready to leave within a few days. So Alice goes into the bathroom, starts to get her stuff together, but when she opens the medicine cabinet, Kristen lunges out and attacks her, and the movie ends, showing that not all of her personalities are fully gone.